Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese just faced off in what was likely the most watched game in WNBA history. These two are the biggest names in women's basketball, with a well-known rivalry that adds a personal edge to every matchup. This game marked the beginning of many future battles between them in the pros, and it did not disappoint. But Angel Reese wasn't the only player Caitlin Clark was targeting. Kamilla Cardoso, who had dominated Clark's Iowa team in the NCAA championship, also made her WNBA debut in this game. The Chicago Sky entered the game with a 3-3 record and were clear favorites against the struggling 1-8 Indiana Fever. However, anyone expecting a blowout was quickly proven wrong. The game was intense, featuring great basketball, trash talk, and even controversy. Aaliyah Boston handed off to Caitlin Clark, who nailed a deep three. Later, Clark contested a corner shot that missed, but Angel Reese out-hustled the defense, grabbed the board, and scored her first points. Chicago's defense challenged Indiana, who started just 1-for-5 from 3. But Indiana adapted. Mitchell led a fast break with a slick, no-look shovel pass to Wallace for an easy layup. Clark then found Boston in the post, who attacked and scored. On another play, Reese rotated too far off NaLyssa Smith, who nailed a wide-open 3. Clark also threw a perfect full-court outlet pass to Wallace for an end. Fueled by tough defense and hustle plays like Boston's fight for possession, Indiana went on a 9-2 run, forcing a Chicago timeout. The Fever's timeout didn't help, as Caitlin Clark quickly came down the floor, used a screen from Kelsey Mitchell, and pulled up off the dribble to hit her second three-pointer of the game. That play showcased how much she's improved since entering the WNBA while in college. She often favored going left for her shot. She's now growing more comfortable going right, making her even tougher to defend on the perimeter. One thing that hasn't changed from her Iowa days is her elite passing. On an inbound play, the Fever ran a double screen with Boston and Smith, seemingly to free up Mitchell, but instead, Wallace slipped under the defense completely unmarked. Clark found her perfectly, but Wallace missed the uncontested layup. With 3:33 left in the first quarter, Kamilla Cardoso, the No. 3 pick, made her WNBA debut, returning from injury. Fans were finally treated to the much-anticipated frontcourt pairing involving Cardoso. Clark, still adjusting to the pro game, made a costly error on the next play by fouling Harrison from behind after a missed corner 3, sending her to the line. Despite being a rookie, Cardoso looked like a seasoned pro, grabbing rebounds early and scoring her first WNBA points off a pick and roll, overpowering Clark and Boston down low. By the end of the first quarter, Clark had filled the stat sheet with 6 points, 3 rebounds, and an assist. Reese and Cardoso were making their presence felt. The Fever opened the second quarter strong, leading 17-4. Caitlin Clark's off-ball movement paid off again as she came off a screen and found a rolling Katie Lou Samuelson for an easy layup. Moments later, Samuelson returned the favor by kicking the ball out to an open NaLyssa Smith, who drained a corner 3. Meanwhile, Chicago's offense struggled to generate quality looks. Chicago struggled to get clean looks in the first quarter, but stayed in the game through second chance points. After a missed shot near the rim, Kamilla Cardoso was right there to clean it up and score, showcasing how the Fever had no answer for her size. On the very next possession, Chicago dumped the ball inside again. This time, 3 defenders swarmed Cardoso, but she remained unbothered, scoring her third straight field goal. She had 6 points and 4 rebounds in just a few minutes. With the game tied at 22, Caitlin Clark drove and kicked it out to NaLyssa Smith, who was hot early. Smith got by her defender and calmly floated it in for her 9th. First half points, another assist for Clark. With 5 minutes left in the second, it was Angel Reese's turn to dish, finding Kennedy Carter out of the post for a strong drive and score, giving Chicago its first lead in a while. But Clark quickly responded. With the shot clock ticking down, she rejected the screen, drove hard into the lane, and finished off the glass. Reese couldn't rotate in time. On the next possession, Reese anticipated Clark's signature outlet pass, stole it, and attacked Boston, drawing a foul and hitting one of 2 free throws. Boston then set a great screen to free up Clark, who missed a rare airball, but Smith grabbed the board and found Kelsey Mitchell, who drained a 3. Mitchell started heating up, adding 5 quick points, including a fast break finger roll. After a Carter miss, down low, Smith continued to dominate, banging with Reese, spinning, and finishing with poise. Clark then found Mitchell on the wing again, and she nailed a long 2, scoring 7 of Indiana's last 9 points to cap a 7-0 Fever run. The half closed with Angel Reese hitting a mid-range jumper far from elegant, but Indiana's lead to 6 despite the Fever finishing the half on a 9-2 run. All 3 of the highly anticipated rookies were making their mark. Caitlin Clark had 8 points and 4 assists on 3 of -6 shooting. Angel Reese contributed 5 points and 3 offensive rebounds, and Kamilla Cardoso made an immediate impact with 6 points. And for boards in limited minutes, The third quarter opened sloppily, with both teams committing several turnovers. Despite the chaos, Nolissa Smith, only 23 years old, looked like a seasoned veteran, dominating Angel Reese in the post and racking up 13 points and 6 rebounds. Mayberry knocked down a couple of baskets for Chicago, but one fever play stood out. Kelsey Mitchell drove and kicked to Boston, who handed off to Clark, faked a screen, then rolled. Clark found her perfectly, and Boston banked it in with poise. You'd think Chicago would adjust, but once again, Clark found Wallace under the hoop, completely unguarded. Though Wallace missed another easy layup, she recovered her rebound and scored. Indiana continued their run. Smith jumped a passing lane, took it coast to coast, and extended the Fever's lead to 6, forcing a Chicago timeout. To stabilize things, they brought back Cardoso. Meanwhile, Clark had cooled off from deep, and, with 4:16 left in the third, the Sky finally hit their first 3 of the game. Mayberry from the corner. Cardoso's presence was felt immediately. In a sequence that showed the depth of her experience, Boston tried to face up and fake Cardoso out, but the rookie stayed disciplined, recovered, and contested the shot cleanly. Boston missed, and on the next possession, tried again with a fake dribble handoff to Mitchell, but Cardoso stayed home and forced another miss. Back on offense, Mitchell showed her basketball IQ, cutting decisively, catching a pass, taking one dribble to shake off the help defense from Reese, and scoring easily to keep Indiana in control. In the third quarter, Chicago's Kennedy Carter took charge offensively, reaching double digits with a smooth bucket. Meanwhile, Christy Wallace, despite missing some easy looks, earlier hit a tough jumper and drew the foul. Showing her resilience, the Sky kept themselves in the game, with Carter feeding Cardoso in the post, where her physicality overwhelmed even Aaliyah Boston. Kelsey Mitchell stayed aggressive in transition, scooping in a layup to bring her total to 11 points as things began to heat up late in the third. Boston responded by faking Cardoso out of her shoes, missing the mid-jumper, but grabbing her own rebound. Clark fought hard for a loose ball, tipping it to Boston, who finally scored, giving her 7 points and 7 rebounds. Then came the moment everyone's talking about. Carter hit a mid-range jumper and, unprovoked, body-checked Caitlin Clark from behind, with a low elbow to the hip, clearly intentional. Shockingly, officials only called a common foul, not a flagrant or technical. As Carter returned to the bench, she was greeted with smiles by none other than Angel Reese. Clark, later interviewed courtside, didn't escalate the situation but calmly noted that it wasn't a basketball play. The refs let physical play go unchecked. All quarter, Clark had already been wrestled to the floor and clipped by Cardoso on back-to-back plays earlier. While each incident may seem minor alone, the pattern suggests more intent, especially when Clark, after a brief rest due to pain, returned to the game only to be immediately targeted again by Carter. Despite the physicality, Carter showed no remorse. In the post-game interview, Clark remained composed but firm, emphasizing that the WNBA has to do something and start officiating these games properly, especially when it comes to Caitlin Clark. While the controversy dominated headlines, it shouldn't overshadow what was an incredible game of basketball. Katie Lou Samuelson hit a deep 3 to put the Fever back up by 6. But Kennedy Carter wasn't daunchy, drove straight at Clark, absorbed contact, finished strong, and added some trash talk along with the foul, converting the 3-point play. Marina Mayberry then drained a tough 3 with a hand in her face, cutting further into Indiana's lead. Even though Clark was struggling from beyond the arc, she continued to impact the game in other ways. Running a pick-and-roll with Nolissa Smith, Clark split the defense with a perfect bounce pass, and Smith floated it, and then came the play of the night. Clark grabbed a defensive rebound, pushed the ball in transition, dished to Erica Wheeler, who lobbed it to Kelsey Mitchell for an alley-oop off the glass. No dribbles, just pure teamwork and precision. Mitchell finished the and one, reminding everyone that yes, alley-oops do happen in the WNBA. Midway through the fourth, Camila Cardoso hit one of 2 free throws to bring Chicago within 6. Wheeler found a clean look but missed, and Clark slipped along the baseline, snatched the offensive board, and relocated to the corner wide open. The crowd braced for the eruption, but her cold streak from 3 continued. She was just 2 for 9 from deep after hitting her first 2. Miss gave Chicago momentum. Angel Reese, relentless on the glass all night, grabbed her 8th offensive rebound, setting a franchise rookie record, and went back to the line, splitting the free throws. Finally, we saw Clark lean into the physicality herself. Rather than settling for a jumper or fadeaway, she drove straight into Evans, showing she's ready to match force with force when the game demands it. A screen from Boston uses it to create space, but the Sky blitz her again. Clark stays composed, dribbles out of pressure, and swings the ball to Kelsey Mitchell. With the shot clock winding down, Mitchell attacks, steps back, and fires, but the shot rims out. Rebound to Angel Reese. The Sky now have the ball, trailing by just 2 points. With under 30 seconds to play, they go to Kennedy Carter, who's been electric all night. She drives hard, but Boston steps up and cuts her off. Carter kicks it to Marina Mabrey on the wing. She lets it fly from 3. Off the front iron, Camila Cardoso gets a hand on the rebound, but can't secure it. The scramble for the ball ends with Nalissa Smith diving on the floor and calling timeout with just 12 seconds remaining. Out of the timeout, Indiana looks to inbound safely. The ball goes to Caitlin Clark, and the Sky immediately foul. She heads to the line cold from 3, but clutch under pressure. First free throw, nothing but net. Second one, swish. Indiana now leads by 4. Chicago calls their final timeout to draw up a play, but it's too late. Indiana defends smartly, forces a contested shot from Mabrey, and Clark grabs the rebound to seal the win. Despite the physicality, questionable officiating, and intense drama, Indiana holds on for a gutsy victory. Caitlin Clark finishes with 10 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds. Nalissa Smith pours in 17. Aaliyah Boston delivers 11 points and 9 rebounds, while Kennedy Carter and Camila Cardoso shine for Chicago. But it's not just the numbers, the tension, the rivalry, and the unresolved fouls will make this game one of the most talked about in WNBA history. With just seconds left, Caitlin Clark used a screen to feed Aaliyah Boston, who almost lost control and nearly threw it out of bounds. Luckily, Nalissa Smith saved the possession. Evans got a hand on the ball but couldn't secure the steal. Fever ball with 4 seconds on the shot clock and 24 on the game clock. Clark inbounded to Kelsey Mitchell, who drove toward the baseline and airballed a tough jumper. Angel Reese grabbed the rebounder 13th of the game with 15 seconds remaining. A 2-pointer would tie it for Chicago. They chose not to call a timeout, and Marina Mabrey went one-on-one with Mitchell. She spun at the top of the key, and Smith tried to poke the ball loose, but was called for a foul despite clearly missing the ball with 6 seconds left. Mabrey, on 80% free throw shooter, missed the first shot in heartbreaking fashion. She hit the second, cutting Indiana's lead to 1. Then came a brilliant inbound. Indiana lobbed it into the backcourt, catching Chicago off. The ball found Caitlin Clark, and instead of forcing a shot or risking a foul, she smartly hurled it into the air to drain the final seconds. Game over. The Indiana Fever pulled off a thrilling 71-70 victory over the Chicago Sky. Caitlin Clark now stands 1-2-0 in the WNBA against both Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso. This was only Indiana's second win of the season, but it could mark a major turning point. Though the game was marred by controversy and unchecked physicality, the level of play lived up to the hype and then some. Clark finished with 11 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists, making history as the youngest WNBA player to ever reach 150 points, 50 rebounds, and 50 assists in her first 10 games. Camila Cardoso, in under 20 minutes, tallied 11 points and 6 boards. Angel Reese dominated the glass with 13 rebounds and 8 points, also making history with a franchise rookie record for offensive rebounds. Carter, Mabrey, and Evans stepped up big for the Sky, but Indiana's core was stronger. Kelsey Mitchell dropped 18, Nalissa Smith had 17, and Aaliyah Boston contributed 10 points, along with stellar defense and crucial rebounds. This Fever team is young, scrappy, and filled with potential. Don't write them off yet. They're going to grow, improve, and find their rhythm. And as for this budding rivalry between Clark, Reese, and Cardoso, it's already electric. This has the makings of the next Bird versus Magic, and the future of women's basketball looks very bright. Stay tuned, we're covering every chapter of this story right here.